Hi, I'm Alex Ritman, and thank you for joining us for the Hollywood Reporter Presents exclusive Q&A with Sergio Navarretta, the director of The Cuban, plus lead star and producer Anna Golja, and fellow cast members Shohreh Aghdashloo and Gossett Jr. So firstly, everyone, I just want to say congratulations on such a heartwarming film, and it's filled with humanity. I mean, it obviously touches on sensitive and sad themes, but it does so in such a life-affirming way and with such kindness. And of course, with incredible music throughout. So I think it's a film that we all really need right now. So thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much, Alex.
I'd love to hear the origins of the story. Did I read correctly that it began with a dream that someone had?
Yes, it began with Taras Colton, who was my partner, and he had a dream about his grandfather, and he wished that he had spent more time with him and listened to his wisdom and his stories. And unfortunately, he passed, and he had all these regrets. And so Taras shared that dream with me, and I was itching to do something outside of, at the time I was on Degrassi. And so I was going through a lot with my great grandmother, who unfortunately suffers from Alzheimer's and dementia. And I immediately thought of Sergio, because he's as you've seen, he's a wonderful storyteller, and he had a background in music. So we pitched it to him, and the rest was kind of history.
Fantastic. Sergio, so what were your first thoughts when you heard this idea?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was a perfect storm. The timing was perfect. It really started as a seed of an idea. I had met Anna at an industry event, and we had expressed interest in working together. And so it really started, the impetus was really a short film where the stakes were super low. There wasn't any pressure, of thinking about distribution or festivals. It was really just the purity of telling a story. And around the same time, my father had suddenly passed away at 71. So that was a shock in my life. So it was, for me, it was more than just making a movie. It was cathartic, and it was a personal journey and a way of paying homage to not only my father, but to the many, many people that, whose stories die with them.
And memories are very connected, very, very tribal. So the elders ran the family, took care of the kids. And I brought you a photograph of me at 15 and me and my great-grandmother in 1953 at the age of 117.
Oh, wow.
She's the one that raised me and my cousins. And so she only lied to us one time. She said, it's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt you. But so we're used to the elders, So when she got Alzheimer's, well, not very little, we laugh at her, because she was so wise. So there's a lot of elders in the family, an intact family tribes. Throwback from Africa. Everybody has some responsibility. So we took care of them very much so. And when they passed away, there was a celebration, not a sadness. Very similar. It was a pleasure to do this Latin culture on the Cuban. Very similar.
And how was this short film ever made? How did it move from a short to the full-length feature that we see?
I think it just went from, I had envisioned Gossett Jr. as the Luis character right from that stage, from a short film. And then the producers, Anna, Taras, and the whole team chased Mr. Gossett down, and through a series of crazy events, we finally pinned him down. And so it really started with him agreeing to do the short. And then once we had Mr. Gossett, we thought, why don't we just take it a step further? And Alessandra did an incredible job at writing a beautiful story, and it really just evolved from there.
Yeah, I think once Lou signed on, and later Shohreh and everybody else, the film kind of took a life of its own in a way that none of us really expected. A lot of times you hear filmmakers talk about how it took them 10 years to get a movie made, and they push and push and push. Whereas with The Cuban, it felt like it was pulling us, and we were just trying to catch up to the film, because it just really had a life of its own.
Am I right in thinking there was an actual car chase involved in getting Lewis to join?
There There was running down the street in stilettos and a mini dress. That's what that was. It was during TIFF. He was in town for King of Dancehall.
Back in the 50s, when I was getting out of high school, we had the dance contests. So I know all about Tito Puente and Tito Rodriguez and Machito and Cuba and Perez Prado and the mambo and the merengue. That was our dances during high school. So it was very wonderful, a lot of warmth, and it pulled us all together. All the people had to know, or that they couldn't come to the party, how to dance, the Afro-Latin dances. It was really a wonderful time during that high school time. Brooklyn, New York. How do you know? Great job.
Shohreh, how did you join? Was there a car chase involved, or was it a different?
Well, absolutely, yes. Sergio and I got to know each other at the TIFF festival years ahead of this movie. He called me and told me that he had a movie. We'd promised each other that we were going to work with each other. He called me and told me that he has a story that he would like to share with me. We went for a cup of coffee, and I ended up crying after I heard what the story was, because I had personally experienced it in my real life. I lost my father to Alzheimer 13 years ago. We were having a reunion with him and my mother and my brothers. My mother warned us in advance and told us that he may not recognize us. So we could simply say, "I'm your daughter, Shohreh." It happened. Same thing. He saw me in the corridor. "Who are you?" "I'm your daughter." An hour later, my brother, who's in love with Persian music, he started playing Persian music. All of a sudden, my father came to life and started calling us, each and every one of us, by our names. Then my brother said, "Let's bring Baba in the middle and have him dance with us." He started dancing with us. My mother was crying, and she was saying that I was waiting for this moment so I can talk to him at least for an hour. Like, thank you for bringing him back to life. But my regret is that, why did I not learn from it? I thought that, this is happening to my father. Why did I not learn from the fact that music can have effect on people with dementia or Alzheimer? That's why the moment Sergio told me about the story, I said, what an amazing original screenplay, what an amazing story to tell. And I experienced this personally, and I would love to be at the disposal of this story to be told. And I totally agree with Anna Golja. There are stories that want to be told, no matter what. They happen overnight. You're thinking, how am I going to do this? Financially, physically, mentally, it looks almost impossible. But they do happen because they want to be told. And I want for this film to go as far as possible and be shown in every channel, everywhere in the world. So people who have, ill people like with Alzheimer and dementia at home would know that all they need to do, play their favorite music for them, and for God's sake, give them the food that they are familiar with. Don't put them on diet. That's what my mother said.
Nice. Sounds like this film was made for you. That's perfect. I mean, from what I understand, you were also quite crucial in helping develop the screenplay along the way.
Sort of, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We did have a lot of dinners. I remember with wine involved and amazing Persian food and Afghan food, and it really became a family, because in order to pretend something or represent a culture, you really have to immerse yourself in it. And I think we had the advantage of living or being born in a multicultural city like Toronto. So we've all had some sort of exposure to cultures. But we were really passionate about just being as true and authentic as possible to the Afghan culture, because the media, I mean, unfortunately, all we see is desert and war zones and, all the typical go-tos that, stereotypical images that we
the older the culture, the more reference and respect there is for the elder.
Yeah.
The older the culture, the more respect.
So true. It is so true, yes.
So we
You're
bring
right,
them
Lou.
back
Mm-hmm.
to tell stories, and we incite memories, and the job is to tell the stories to the young, and it keeps us intact, especially your culture and mine, Shohreh.
Absolutely. You refer to it as a tribe. It's a tribal thing. And I totally agree with you.
We all have some job to do. If we're in that family, there's something to do at each age. And when you become an elder, we're allowed here sometimes in this modern society to kind of get old. And we're missing an opportunity to hear some great stories. We need to know how to incite those stories in the elders and sit back and listen. There's some good stuff there.
Oh, there were nights that my grandfather would tell us stories, age hierarchy, of course, and we were all sitting quiet, listening to him. And they all had great stories to tell, meaningful, profound stories that indirectly would teach us something.
So when they finally left us, there was a celebration then.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It was a celebration. They had completed their journey.
Yeah.
We
were so thankful for them to be in our lives. Yeah.
So that's something very nice about this whole experience that I remember from my great-grandmother, my grandparents. What a memory that was. I'm getting there now, guys.
No, not yet. Not yet.
You're not a day older than 25, Lou.
Watch yourself, kid.
Yeah.
I have to say that the most youthful energy on set was definitely Gossett Jr. and Shohreh Aghdashloo. As soon as
Gossett.
they were dancing, and we just had such a ball. And everybody else's energy up.
Well, that's better than working, I tell you that.
They had to quiet us.
Oh my gosh, yeah, countless times. Quiet on set, quiet on set.
Quiet. Kids, be quiet. But tell you the truth, Alex, the days that I wasn't working, I would go to the set to watch them working with each other. Anna and Lou loved watching them on the monitor. And somebody told me, why don't you wait for the movie to come out? I said, no. This is so fresh and authentic. And I have a chance to look at the scene, in real life and see it on the monitor. And oh my God, all the details.
Now I can finally reveal the secret of my performance now. When I looked at Anna, I secretly wished that I was younger.
You're perfect as you are, Lou.
It's quite all right, Lou. It's normal. Share a secret with you. Sometimes I feel like
talking about memories.
Memories. Good old days.
Yes, ma'am. Good stuff. Great time.
The music it feels like a character in itself throughout the film.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Music, I give a lot of credit to Hilario Duran and the whole band, and that the Cuban culture is so rich and transcendent, and it sort of transcends all cultural barriers, racial barriers. The time we spent in Cuba taught us so much about ourselves, about the culture, and really the use of this music was music therapy for us. As soon as we got between takes, everybody was dancing, and we were all in that same frequency together collectively. So I think music has that power.
And I loved the bits the elements that were shot in Cuba. Talk to me about that, because it felt like you were having a very nice holiday, but obviously you were making a film at the same time.
It was definitely a mix of work and pleasure. We have tons and tons and tons of stories of the things that happened while we were shooting in Cuba. It's a very difficult country to shoot in, but thankfully the wonderful people and amazing music make up for it. But there were a lot of logistical challenges. One story that comes to mind is we have that shot on the Malecon, the highway, with multiple picture cars and one of Luis's flashbacks. And we were told that we had all the permits until we got there, and we actually didn't have any permits. So we found out that the police were on their way to shut us down. And again, luck and great timing, the president of Cuba was leaving a hotel just down the street. So his motorcade completely shut down the highway and he was going in the opposite direction. So in that, like, I don't know, 3-minute period, we were able to get the shot, and we got one take, and it was good, and that's what we ended up using.
Wow.
It was meant to be.
Meant to be. Otherwise,
that's
we'd be
it.
in communist jail.
That's it.
It's like all best intentions, you know. Shot list, what shot list? You know.
Who said we were shooting here? We're just passing by.
No,
Movie? What movie?
Exactly. I've done that before. Guerrilla work. Let's just get there and shoot it and leave.
Stealing
Yeah.
scenes and stuff, you know.
Yes.
It was a non-stop guerrilla shoot.
My first
Yes.
Nice.
I can imagine.
one thing I realized is how much creativity can come out of chaos, and just just being so free and liberated in that environment. I found it to be extremely creative. So it's no coincidence that Hemingway went there, and all the great writers, musicians, poets. It's a very inspiring place in the midst of this kind of anarchic chaos. I found it really stimulating creatively.
Interesting you're saying that. I once watched an interview with Tarkovsky when he was he had already migrated to the West. They asked him which one is better to make a movie. And he said, although here I've been given a lot of money, but over there I was under a lot of pressure, and it made me to become more creative than I am right now. Interesting.
Yeah. We had one of the Cubans passed out from the heat. I mean, it was just unbelievable heat and obstacles. But for some reason, that some of the best memories, you know, that I'll never forget was there with.
Well, I call it Afro-Cuban these days because of in the past, the great Dizzy Gillespie, he was a jazz player, trumpet player. In his group, he had a man by the name of Joe Cuba. And he had another one, two Cubans in his group, and they went to Africa. And they saw similarities in African music and Cuban music. And they brought the music and wedded those two. So what we see in this movie is Afro-Cuban. You know, so it's the Cuban Spanish music with an African beat. It really caught on very quickly. The Joe Cuba and Tito Puente and Tito Rodriguez and Machito. It was very natural, very, very mystical. You couldn't sit still, listen to that music.
Were you dancing when you were watching the movie?
Throughout. Oh, wait, yeah. Trying to make notes while dancing. Yeah, of course.
I want to see that.
Well, I'm sure he was dancing, especially when Anna sings "Kisses, Kisses, Kisses." I was dancing all the time behind the scene.
You were. You had a
Yes.
dance party all day, every day.
All day. Soon as you open your kisses, I would start dancing, waiting for my turn.
Fiesta, quieren que vaya conmigo. That's beautiful music.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah.
And it's a pleasure to play Latinos because some of my dearest friends in Hollywood, it's a tribute to them, to the Eddie Olmoses and those particular people. It was nice to respect that California Latin culture.
Nice.
Our connection is essential. And a lot of brothers and sisters that I work with and I hang out with. So this is a tribute to them, to the Edward James Olmos and those particular people.
I was going to say, Lou, you managed to convey so much in the film without like a huge amount of dialogue. He's a really, really sweet character, but there's a lot more going on than meets the eye, and he's obviously the great guitarista. So how do you prepare for a role like that where so much is unsaid?
Well, you still play the music. I was encouraged, by the way. I saw Robert De Niro in a film called Beginnings, I believe it was called. And in one take, he dropped 40, maybe 50 years. He went from there to, so I said, if I ever get an opportunity, as an actor, and I respect, I'd like to be able to see if I can handle that. And I was able to do it 3 or 4 times in the Cuban. So you have to be careful what you ask for. But it works, and I celebrate the experience. I celebrate all these people, the camera lady. We had a secret kind of thing. She'd tell me when things were right and when things were wrong. So it was like a family. It's a great family. It was over too soon. Over much too soon.
Oh,
And finally, there is a lot of different themes and issues that are addressed in the film. But what do you think is its, if there's one, what do you think is its sort of overriding message?
I would say the overriding message is that we need to cherish the time that we have with our elders. I think we need to respect them and care for them and listen to all their stories. And remember that they were once young too. They aren't just, you know, we forget how they've lived incredible lives and have so many stories to share. So I think we really need to value them more. And I think that really is the core of the story.
Absolutely. And it makes a statement that all these cultures must live together. And we hit the common thing that we hit, not just as artists, Anna from Europe and Iran and Africa and Brooklyn and California. We all got together with one kind of thing, but it was not impossible for people of all the cultures, and we're having this problem today, and we're winning, to get together, because the only answer is a mutual salvation, a mutual respect, one to another, for the salvation of us all. And that film does that, both on camera and off camera. Very nice. And it's all your fault, Anna.
I will gladly take the fall for that.
We need that.
There's
we
one
need
thing.
stories like that now, especially today.
Exactly. Inclusive, versatile, with profound messages. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
It really is also a testament to the power of the imagination. I mean, this particular film deals with Alzheimer's, but whether it's someone suffering from schizophrenia, whether, you know, there's so many ways that we can apply this principle, which is to really honor the imagination and really celebrate it. And we've learned so much in the last year, just about our connection with our elders, about our connection to each other. And it's been a reset in so many ways. So although we're sort of like in the dark night of the soul, I think when we come out the other side, we'll all be better after this experience. And that's really my hope.
Very nice experience. And the people in the towns, you know, the town that's where maple syrup comes right out of the tree. We can't duplicate that. Very nice, very nice.
Fantastic. Well, I think that is a perfect way to end this, but so nice to speak to you guys. So thank you very much, Sergio, Anna, Shohreh, and Lou. It's been a real pleasure.
Likewise, Alex.
Thank you,
so
Alex.
much.
Thank you so much.
And Hollywood Reporter.
Adios, todo el mundo.
Yes.
Khodafis.
And thank you very much for joining us for the Hollywood Reporter Presents screening series.